Why do you cry? Because he will not. He is Sumerian. So I will cry for him. As I listen to the podcast known as...
Trapped Under Plastic. The podcast where say something funny.
Do it. Say it. Say it. Dance for me, monkey.
Wieners. I don't know. That's all I come up with.
Funny ha-ha. Funny like a clown.
Sumerian. The only time I've ever heard the word Sumerian is in reference to Sumerian Records, the label that has Born of Osiris. What is that quote from?
It's from Conan.
Oh. From the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
When the chick gets killed by the snake arrow.
Oh, okay.
And they burn her in the pyre on the ghost place where no fire burns.
Dude, yeah, there's some wicked stuff in that movie. Doesn't like Conan go to like a little witch hut and to get like advice from someone, and then she like turns out to be like some kind of crazy like
oh yeah, he has sex with the crazy witch who turns into a demon, and he's got to kill her.
Yes, I love that kind of fantasy. It reminds me of like the Simon game Hate. You know, it's like all just very like the world's dying, and I love it.
Yeah, there's so many. I just recently rewatched it, and I was like, there's so much weird shit.
I know.
And like in the opening scene where James Earl Jones, first of all,
dude, the opening scene is awesome.
Yeah, James Earl Jones, I can't take him serious with that wig.
You can't with the short bangs and the long black hair.
Yeah, and it's just straight as an arrow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
And he just stares. Like it feels like the scene goes on forever.
Yeah.
He's staring at Conan's mom.
All three of them are just standing there staring. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just like whoosh, turns around, her head's off. But I realized, because I was actually watching it while I was painting this week, that movie has so little dialogue.
Yeah.
And then it reminded me why it's one of the best fucking soundtracks of all time, because it has to lean on the soundtrack and the beautiful music so much.
Yes.
Because there's so little dialogue.
It's interesting the thing you pick up on when you're, I imagine, when you're mostly just listening to a movie.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I probably wouldn't notice that. I did notice the good soundtrack, but I did not notice the lack of dialogue.
Dude, I'm like Daredevil whenever I'm watching movies while I'm painting, because one of my senses is gone, so I get superhuman senses in my other senses.
Okay.
I can smell the film reel. I can tell you what camera it was shot from.
Panavision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I rewatched / listened to that, and like the giant snake fight in the snake pit. It's so ridiculous.
I would say the fight with Thulsa Doom at the end is kind of a letdown. You know, it's like the movie builds Thulsa up a lot, and then it's kind of like, all right, well, he kind of just died.
It fits that like the big fight is where it's generals, right? Where they come to where they get away. Conan and the good guys get away, and the bad guys know where they're going to be. And they're setting up for that, that fight. And then he has that big fight with the two generals, which kind of makes sense because of how old Doom was when he was a kid. Like, he's not going to be able, he's got fucking magic powers, though. I wish he would do some magic powers.
He's supposed to be a god, right?
Right. I mean, and he's not a god, but he has, in this world of sword and sorcery, he's higher on the sorcery thing. Like, he shot a fucking snake arrow, bro. Like, like a quarter mile and fucking pegged that chick and killed her. Like, he's got to have something when it comes down to it. He's just like, no, he just fucking decapitates him and holds his head up amongst all the thralls.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes.
Yeah. That's definitely one of those movies where I was in my like phase of wanting to watch a bunch of shitty 80s fantasy movies, and then I watched that and I was like, oh, this is not bad. This is actually a good movie.
Oh yeah. It's good. It's so good. And you can tell it's like it's early Schwarzenegger career because he can't speak. His accent is so thick.
Yeah.
It's very like specific things he can say, and he can't be talked too fast because then you won't understand him at all. So they like make him speak really slowly and over enunciate. But my favorite part of the movie is the part at the end where he kills Thulsa Doom, because the movie starts where his mom gets decapitated by the glorious sword that his father, I can't remember, did his father like, he was a blacksmith? Did he make the sword or something?
I can't remember.
Either way, with a clean swipe, it's like, whoosh, and her head's off. But when Conan kills him, there's like a drawn out just this clip of him hacking at his fucking neck like 6 times, and there's a thunk, thunk, thunk. So his way to do it, his way that the bookends of the movie is decapitation, proves who the brutal barbarian king that he is going to be, is that all the people are just standing there watching, and he's just hacking slowly, trying to get through that vertebrae in the neck. And I'm like, yeah, that was a specific decision made about who the character is and how this is going to end. And I was like, I'm here for it.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie. Don't watch number 2 or the remake.
I haven't seen number 2 in a long time. I don't think, is The Rock in the remake? Who's Conan in the remake?
In the remake, it's Aquaman. What's his name? It's
Momoa.
But yeah, Jason Momoa. Yes. And it's fine. It's like a slapsticky. It's not slapsticky. It's like an action movie. It's a modern shitty action movie with like some cool magical elements. So it's definitely worth it for like just like a popcorn movie. But the second old one, I think is a particularly bad movie because it really doesn't take anything they were doing awesomely in the first one and translate it to the second one. It turns it into kind of a comedy, and I feel like it does better as like a heavy, dark fantasy, you know?
Yeah, because it is like the original like comics are like, they're not like kiddie comics.
I'm not sure. I've never read any.
Yeah, because like the full story and the whole like there's like multiple arcs of Conan's life, like in him, like that origin story, and then him as a king, 'cause he's kind of a scary fucking king, not a good king either, right? So you should check those out. But
I will. Anyways, this is not even the Preamble Ramble yet. Let's get into it because we have a long one today. I went to Twin Cities Con as a vendor, which I'd never done before, and I didn't go for the full weekend. I went for just the full Saturday, and it's a con that takes place in Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center, which is fucking massive. The attendance for the con that year was 40,000 people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which I think normally Adepticon last year was what, like 15, maybe 12, something like that. And that feels pretty big and busy as well. And so this was bigger and it was more spread out. So there's definitely that element. But like midday on Saturday, I took like a moment to like walk around the booths and like check everything out. And it was hard to get around. Like there are people everywhere.
Wow.
So it was super busy. But overall, really positive experience. Learned some stuff, made some sales, not like a ton. I was one of 2 vendors that was selling miniatures. There was like a D&D booth that was like selling all things D&D. So like dice trays, blisters of models and stuff like that. But otherwise, everyone else was like anime art, sci-fi and fantasy books, cool T-shirts. I got this sick Texas Chainsaw Massacre T-shirt from a booth.
Japanese,
the Japanese
release.
Yeah. It was really cool. A lot of just like kind of geek chic, geek culture stuff, 3D printing like booths, dice towers, everything you can imagine, lightsabers, whatever.
I was going to ask you, with a generic name like Twin Cities Con, like what is the focus? But it sounds like it doesn't have one.
Yeah, it's all geek stuff. They had like Hayden Christensen was there, the actor who's Anakin, if you don't know who that is. And also the guy who plays Palpatine was there. And fucking the guy who voice acts SpongeBob was there. There were people cosplaying as SpongeBob. I fucking loved seeing that.
Oh, my God.
Also, that was another thing. There was so much more cosplay than at Adepticon.
It makes sense.
It was like every other person was in some kind of costume.
If you're there for the event, as opposed to like Adepticon is a convention you go to like play things. So like it's like a giant tournament almost. And there's many tournaments going on, many games to play, and then or you're from the art side taking painting classes and that kind of thing. But like you're doing it for activities.
Yeah.
Where this is just kind of like you just show up because you know for the spectacle of it.
Yeah,
it's a spectacle thing. But there was so it was anime, it was movie stuff. So it's kind of like a San Diego Comic-Con light kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, definitely learned some lessons. Like I had like a little tablet that was like playing a clip of playing clips from all of our masterclass courses. So as a way you could like kind of see what is in those classes. But like if I had sat down and thought about it for a second, the kinds of people that are at that show are definitely not the kind of people that are going to be interested in a super nerdy like learning experience, and I would have had a better time like using that valuable table space, because I only had one table, maybe something else that had applied more to like the average geek, maybe like more miniatures or more of something. But you just learn stuff, you know?
Sure. Or even like you could even have created a playlist on your channel of like intro ones, like how to wet blend, how to paint your first mini,
Exactly.
how to build a model and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a free YouTube video kind of thing. Because I had a little sign for my channel and like a little QR code you could scan, and some people did scan that, but it wasn't a lot. But yeah, like you think about all sorts of things you would never think about, like table height. Because like miniatures are small. The table is like what? It's about like 30 inches like high. People don't want to crouch down and look at stuff. People did do that. That did happen. But like I remember at Adepticon, I remember specifically Mindwork Games booth, they had all like these tiers and everything was like super high up. So you could like see all the models almost at like head height or like maybe crouched on like 1 foot. And so like, yeah. Just like it's great. It's great. If I had sold nothing, I would have still learned all of these things and it would have been valuable. But it didn't matter because I got some sales and I learned stuff, so it was good.
Just those weird logistic things.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
Even though we've been to a number of conventions, different ones that you don't think about it because that's not the role you are in when you're there.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had a good time. And,
Thank you.
And you sold a couple things. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would you go back?
To that one, probably not, but I would definitely go to Adepticon as a vendor, I think. Or like Nova Open or the other trade show that's more about distribution. It happens in Nevada.
Oh, the Gamma Trade Show?
Yes, Gamma Trade Show. I would go to those for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Nova's a really good one because Nova it's not as overwhelming in terms of their vendor hall. They have a lot of vendors, but it's not as like massive as Adepticon, and there's a lot more niche kind of places though.
Cool.
But it still gets a lot of traffic. That might be a cool one to look into.
Nice.
So speaking of conventions, as we sit, our good friends Sam Lenz and Vinci V are flying to Italy.
For Monte Sansevino.
Yeah, they are taking the pilgrimage. They are, I made sure to deck them out in pure American flag covered sweatsuits.
Yeah. Sick Ray-Bans too. And like bandanas.
Right? Yeah, dude, and just everything needed to be covered in American flags. I just hydro dipped everything they owned before they left.
Their miniature carrying case hydro dip that.
Hey guys, I know you're really looking forward to bringing all these models, but the ones you painted for a competition, I hydro dipped them all in American flag. And so they're there to represent the red, white, and blue. Little Andy Wardle asked me yesterday if I was coming, and I said regrettably no, not this year, Andy.
Yeah, at some point you were considering it.
Yeah,
you decided to not go.
It was, I think the main reason is, one, like, time is this elusive thing, this fucking sands of the hourglass, so are the days of our lives kind of thing, where it's like, time slips away so quickly, and I feel like I didn't accomplish enough pieces to be proud of that I want to show there. And it's like, as you know, when you got to paint so much for videos, and you put the work in for something for a video, you kind of don't look at it the same way as something you didn't paint for a video. And I just don't look at my work under the lens of I think it's worthy. And I think a lot of it isn't, and that's not the point of why I paint them for videos, right? Our channels are not the kind of channels where like everything you paint is trying to paint it to a display standard.
You don't think your Golden Demon stuff would work there?
Yeah, but yes, like I'd bring my Golden Demon unit entry, but like I don't know what else I would bring. Like I want to bring, when I go, I want to have like 4-ish pieces that I'm just like, I don't even need to love all of them, but I want to be able to be, stand by.
Yeah, I would say 100% your 3 prior Golden Demon entries would all be good.
Yeah.
And there's definitely stuff like that there, 100%. So like you wouldn't be like the only person with GW heavy metal or Golden Demon
Yeah.
stuff. Like that's definitely a thing there for sure.
I actually wouldn't be ashamed of bringing the Mindwork Games Frankenstein monster that I painted.
Oh yeah.
The Brahm piece.
Yeah.
Because that is a much more artsy, more artistic decision making in how I used light and color in that, in contrast. And so it's not refined to, high competition level, but I think that I'm really proud of the kind of the story that I told with the painting of that. So that's something, but like, I don't know. I'm like, another thing is like, it's such a big trip in terms of distance and cost and time.
Yes.
And so if I'm going to do it, I want to be like, I'm doing it not just to experience it. I'm doing it because I also want to bring stuff and I want to learn and I want feedback and along with experiencing that whole thing. So
Absolutely.
I just didn't this year, but anyway, we wish Sam and Vince all the best, and we hope that they have a great time, regardless of how they do. It seems less. You've been there, so you tell me. It seems less about strictly winning as it is showcasing and being there.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think just because it's inherently an open system, that just immediately takes the pressure off of like who wins and who loses, I think. But yeah, I didn't even go to the award show, which apparently was a big mistake. Everyone was like, "Oh, you should definitely go. It's like one of the best parts of the show." So there might be even a thing that they experienced that I didn't experience if they go to that cool, like, I don't even know what you call it, like a venue at least for plays and stuff, and it's like very ornate looking.
Yeah. It looks like the theater.
Yes, theater. Duh.
From an Anne Rice novel where there's vampires that are putting on a play.
Yes.
That is about vampires, but they're actually pretending to be actors, pretending to be vampires, but they're actually vampires. It looks exactly like that theater.
Did you ever see Copenhagen's movie called Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman? And,
Oh yeah, the classic one.
I just got a picture of like Dracula's brides like on my Facebook feed, and like they would 100% be in a booth in that thing, like that
in that theater,
in their fancy gowns and shit.
I mean, that's so great to have your award ceremony in a pretty awesome theater like that.
Yeah. The whole thing is like that. The whole event is like in a pretty awesome fucking building.
I mean, there's so much history. That's one of the things that like when you go, even when we went to Nottingham for Warhammer World, you as an American, you don't see it on a day-to-day basis, and you don't realize how much human history is in the world that we don't experience because our country is so young. And walking down a cobblestone street that's far older than our nation and just seeing these buildings and seeing the history and things built on top of things and just the age and all that kind of stuff, and thinking of like, oh, in the grand scheme of things and this thing we call life, like we're just a speck of time. And it's just like, it kind of puts you in your place and lets you look at things a little bit differently. We don't have that. We've got McDonald's and Costco, motherfuckers.
Yeah, concrete roads, baby, asphalt.
Yeah.
No cobblestones over here.
So I will go. And so, yeah, I'm curious if any of the Goody Peepees go to Monte Sansevino or ever been to Monte Sansevino. If so, what's your thoughts on it? So you can put that in the YouTube comments. We'll read those, and I'm curious to hear what you thought. Or in the Facebook group. We've got a Facebook group, Trapped Under Plastic Facebook group. And we've lots of fun discussions over there. I will say that as the years have gone on, this podcast, the Facebook group has grown less about sharing and talking about tendies than it did in its first probably 2 years of life.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think we've focused less on tendies as
We
time's
have.
gone. Yeah.
We have, forget it. We have.
We've branched out to other restaurants.
I mean, I'm staring at a golden tendy trophy over there. So we remember our roots. And we're probably going to Cane's for lunch.
I wouldn't mind some Canes.
I think we talked about Cane's so much early on in this podcast, like how many people went out of their way to try canes that listen to this podcast because we talked about it. And then undoubtedly it has been built up so much bigger than it actually is.
Yeah. I feel like we should invest in Kane's stock.
We should have.
Yeah, earlier on.
We would have probably made like 4 cents a share, but for the impact we did. But it's still like, I think even if back then, like 3-4 years ago, if we would have invested in Kane stock, it would have been a good investment because they've only opened more and more and it's become more and more popular.
Yeah, whether or not what we did had any real impact.
we can say it's us, but you know, that's neither here nor there. It was all great decisions. But I will say the last time we recorded the podcast, we didn't do lunch that day and I was driving back home. And I had forgot to bring my protein shake. And so I'm like, oh, I'm fucking starving. I could probably make it home. That's fine. And then I drove by the Zumbrota exit Dairy Queen.
Okay.
And I had to get me a chicken strip basket.
The siren call of the chicken strips, dude.
Bro, I mean, the chicken strip basket from Dairy Queen, it does so many things right.
Does it? Okay.
In some ways, I like it better than Cane's.
I had a Dairy Queen burger somewhat recently, and man, I was so disappointed.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Okay.
You got to get chicken strip basket if you go there, and you have to get the gravy, right? It's all about the gravy.
Like actual gravy.
Yeah, so you pick your sauce. One of the sauces you can pick is gravy, and it comes in a little styrofoam thing, and it's warm. And it's like chicken fried steak gravy.
Okay, yeah.
So you're eating chicken tenders, but you're actually eating chicken fried steak.
Dude, okay.
Bro.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. And their fries are always good, like solid. I mean, you heard it here first, folks. Dairy Queen chicken tender basket is coming hard for that crown.
It's coming so hard.
Yeah, it's coming hard.
Speaking of fast food, I've been rediscovering Taco Bell, but we don't need to talk about that. I have a little item in here that's going to dovetail nicely into your next thing. I have been backing a lot of crowdfunding campaigns recently.
What?
I know. I don't know. It's sometimes I go in waves sometimes. But Dice Throne, the game that I've played the most this year, had a Kickstarter campaign for a bunch of characters that I kind of have like a Halloween theme. One is the Necromancer Lord. One is the Raveness. Another one is, I forget the other two. But there are 4 new characters. And so I backed that. Love that game so much. Love the theme of this set.
Are there miniatures?
There are miniatures that come with it. They're more rudimentary. They're like board game larger figures with simplified features, but there's a co-op version of the game you can play called Dice Throne Adventures. And so the miniature is used for that to move around the board and like fight the big boss at the end. I haven't played that version yet, but I also picked up Dice Throne Adventures because it's never available at a retail location. You can only get it, I guess, through a crowdfunding campaign, it seems. But I got that. I got a game off of BackerKit. I've never backed a game on BackerKit, but it's called Bloody Hollow. It's from the guys that make Hobgoblin and a couple other games. Revolver, and it's a game about...
You're just saying words now.
They're games. It's a game about the Headless Horseman and Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, right. Starring Johnny Depp.
Yep. And it looked cool. It's got a cool vibe. It's a solo game or a co-op game. And I'm excited to try it out. The models look cool, which is the reason why I backed it. I like the models. And then lastly, the third one I backed.
Oh man, there's more.
Which maybe you can guess what it's going to be. I backed the Trench Crusade Kickstarter campaign.
Oh.
There was at least 2 warbands that I was like, I fucking want those models. I don't know if the game's good. I don't know anything about the game, but the models look freaking sick. And so I picked up a warband or 2 warbands. I can't remember what I did. Yeah, man. Trench Crusade. Yeah. $3 million?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's the thing I put on the document was Trench Crusade. And I didn't back it, but I'm waiting for like the whatever
Pledge Manager
thing to open because this game had been like organically hitting my feed and I've been seeing stuff about it and I'd seen miniatures and I'd seen artwork and I just saw the artwork completed for the cover of the book and it's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's like they have legit artists working there and like it's World War, like different universe. World War I is the setting.
Heavy religious connotations as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this kind of historical meets sci-fi realm where the there's religion, and when there's religion, there's demons, and and just nastiness, it working in the trenches and stuff. And the models look really cool. They look that design of learning from the good aspects of Games Workshop design for models, right? Where each detail is put on there purposefully, and they're dynamic. They look very similar to some of the stuff in the Mordheim groups that I'm a part of, where people are making third-party wartime models that they almost feel like they could be Games Workshop models. I mean that in a good way of like they have a distinct look, a distinct aesthetic, a design style, but they were sculpted by people that understand painting and understand miniatures and creating miniatures. And so that combined with the game looks like it's going to be pretty freaking interesting. It caught a lot of traction. I know Uncle Adam did a video about it. It made over $3 million in the crowdfunding campaign.
That's insane.
Can you imagine? You're just like, because how many games are put out there on places like Kickstarter where people are like making their own game and they're going to have their own miniatures. And you're like, I made $50,000 off it. That's good. That's great. Whatever. Yeah. And these people are probably the same fucking way. And then it just went.
Yeah. I read one of the backer updates that said basically that, like, we expected to make like 60, 70 grand, but like this is exceeding our wildest imagination. And you're totally right. There are so many games on Kickstarter, so many worthy games. Like Rivenstone was one of those games, right? Had a huge team behind it, a lot of cool art design, a lot of thoughtful design of the mechanics and the rules. They really gave it their all, and it just like kind of floundered by the own company's standards. And then this one just fucking shoots up like a rocket, and it makes you wonder, like, what really separates the two. And I feel like it's art direction. People aren't like getting a sense of the rules through reading the Kickstarter page. Like they're seeing the models, they're seeing the drawings, they're getting a vibe, and then they're like, yes, I'm in. And then at some point, hype takes over, and maybe a little bit of FOMO takes over, and then it keeps escalating. Right? It's like a positive feedback loop. Yeah, it's like a movie trailer or the dust jacket on a book. Like, what can you get at a glimpse that will grab you? You do not have to explain everything. Yeah. It's like your standard premise, your direction, your general like core of what this is, and that is nothing to do with rules. Yeah. Yeah. Or like reading the page. I would say the majority of consumers on Kickstarter probably don't read the majority of the page before deciding to back. And maybe I'm just saying what I do and I'm applying it to the rest of the world, but I feel like that's how it works. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think people really go through and read the details on the page before purchasing? I could tell you what I do. What do you do? So I have to be drawn, whether it's something external or I'm just scrolling through Kickstarter or whatever, and I have to be drawn by that initial picture. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then I click in there. And then I scroll through, and I'm only looking at visuals. Yeah. Yep. I'm looking at the models. I'm looking at your cool art. I will like maybe read your top synopsis of like in a post-apocalyptic world where you only have bananas as weapons. 3 monkeys enter the cage. Like fuck, I'm in for this. It's basically Donkey Kong Country. So I want someone to make Donkey Kong Country the miniatures game. So yes, I need to be grabbed. I will know without reading a word whether or not I'm going to back it. Okay. And from there, if I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I want to back this, and I scroll back up, and then I find like introduction or whatever, and I read those things. Okay. I'm not digging knee deep. I'll know if it's worthy. Maybe it's just because the things that interest me are visual based. Yeah, that could be. Yep. And people are different, but like I really strongly feel that like if you can't really give me a really awesome setting with awesome art and awesome miniatures, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how great the game is. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I just recently did the video where I ranked all the miniature companies. Yeah, I'm curious. I got some feedback on that from people. Really curious because there was one top comment that was like, "This won't be like what was the word they used? Controversial at all." Like that was the comment. Like, this won't be controversial at all. And I'm curious what the feedback was. Yeah. Well,
I will get to that.
Okay.
But the first thing was like, as part of that, I went through and I brought out a bunch of my CMON games and all the fucking hundreds of CMON models I have.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, to each their own, but like, there's a reason why I took a long hiatus from kickstarting miniatures games, and it was because like I ain't got time for substandard models to paint.
In a world where we can pick what models we paint, like why not pick the best ones?
Right.
You know?
And there's not that there isn't value, in some of the games if you really want to play the games. But anyway, there's a couple of things that I got. First of all, there's a number of people that were like, oh, you're a GW sellout because you gave GW S tier. And then there was also a lot of people that were like, if you don't think GW is S tier, your opinion is mute. And I'm like, okay.
You're like in the middle. You're like,
guys, yeah. But yeah, so and the more that video reaches outside your standard audience, the more you're gonna get those really diametrically opposed kind of comments.
Yeah.
People are just there. They're there and angry, and they want a reason to be angry, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna look through and for a reason you're angry. I gave Reaper a fairly high score. Some people were really adamant about the original Reaper bones, their first like plastic models being garbage, and I agree that some of those are really bad. But their new stuff, the Reaper Black and Reaper USA, are a lot crisper and they're nicer. And there's other factors involved like price and entry point into having a pleasant painting experience as a new painter. I think they're a great entry point, and they deserve to be ranked higher on the scale because of what they're bringing. And so that's my justification for that. There's a lot of middle ground. Oh, so I gave BattleTech a D, but I knew I was going to rank them low. But what I really wanted to do was make a strong argument of how BattleTech could be one of the most awesome miniature experiences if they just did it right. And they made it about kit bashing, and they made it about separate parts. Did you ever see or buy any of the old Forge World Dreadnought models where you'd buy the parts? You buy the arm separate, you buy the head separate, you buy the different body and different parts separate, right?
Yeah, the Doridio, like the weird...
Derideo.
Yeah. I've seen it.
I like the Leviathan Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that, and it's kind of like their Warhound and Warlord Titans and stuff too. You kind of... It's kind of a la carte thing.
Okay.
If BattleTech were to use, crisp plastic or resin, honestly, and it was an a la carte thing, because there's so much customization in that game, and there's so much that you can do to make your mech so unique and so cool. And we have great examples in like video games of games like the new Armored Core 6, of badass mechs and a wide variety, and seeing them in action poses and just like flying through the air and blowing each other up and all that kind of shit. Like, there's so much opportunity that is so squandered with your like sloppy little squat, crappy little
blocky
mechs,
guys,
blocky mechs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want it to be cool. It could be cool. It's not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I was expecting to get a shitload of heat for that, and I mean, there's some, but not that much.
Okay.
I got a lot more of people that were fans of BattleTech that came in being like, listen to this man. That's what they want too.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I feel like, obviously, I haven't seen every model in the BattleTech range, but from what I have seen, it just seems like they don't have like a really strong art director, someone who like can really push it. I feel like even Blacksite Studios released a game that was based on Evangelion. It was kind of like a mech-based game, and even their models were like more dynamic and better. I don't know if anything ever happened to that game, but I remember the models, because I ran an ad for it, were pretty dang cool. But yeah, I think that would send them into the stratosphere if they're already this popular and this relevant, and like have like products in Target and shit like that. Like, great models would just fucking send it.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'd play it, but I'm saying I would consider it.
Yeah.
Because it's a real crunchy, cool system.
It is
everything
crunchy.
I've heard.
It's kind of also like a choose your own adventure, right? You can play Alpha Strike and have a little bit more of a low key experience, or you can do the full fat version of the game and like really get into the weeds. So
you have those tiers for investment from your player base, and that's a great structure. You've got the structure. You've done all the hard work, and it's a matter of investing in that. So overall, I mean, there's always people that are mad about their thing doing better or worse or whatever. There's a lot of stuff because I gave Weird Miniatures a pretty good score, but I was like also like a strong catalyst that like they are super fiddly and have way more pieces than they need to have. So it's hard to put them together. They're super tiny, so they're kind of a frustrating painting experience. But the quality of the miniatures is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And so people were on both sides of that, saying like they're so frustrating and unpaintable, and it's a terrible experience. And people are like, yeah, they're really good. So it was that all across the board. I didn't get any other conclusion that wasn't people on both sides. But.
It's a hard thing, because there's an element of design as well that's very difficult to judge. It's like, yes, maybe you can cast a model well and manufacture it well, but if you're fundamentally making a bad looking figure, like how does that rank? Like how do you judge that? It's definitely not objective, so it's hard to do.
Yeah, that art direction and sculpting are like, you cannot overestimate how valuable that is.
Yeah, they're kind of the most important thing, I'd say.
Yeah.
I'd say like once you get above a certain casting quality level, that's what really matters.
Right. And you can even work with a slightly less quality casting product experience if you've done those other things right.
Exactly. If you know the medium you're working in, and if you sculpt appropriately for it, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So it was an interesting experience. What else do we have to talk about?
I have one last thing. I participated in my first ever Star Wars Unlimited pre-release event, first ever card game event, where I bought cards, I drafted a deck, and I went 2-1.
Okay, baby.
It wasn't too bad.
Dude, I'm gonna put that all on your the training you did with us with the Magic Cube draft.
Yeah, it was great. I played my first game and I lost, and then I played against a winner from round 1, and I managed to beat her. And then I played against another person and won that third one as well.
Did they have prize support? Did you get stuff for winning games, or did you get stuff for participating or anything like that?
So I think no matter what, you got a booster. If you won 2 games, you got 2. If you won 3, you got 3. I don't think I actually got the boosters for winning 2. Maybe I did. I can't really remember. It doesn't matter. I don't need 2 more boosters.
Oh, yeah, you do.
No, I don't. I already bought a fucking set of boosters for this game, and like I keep buying like 3 whenever I go to the source. I just keep picking
got that itch.
I know, dude. It's a problem.
But
it felt good. I loved it. It was definitely more low key. I could see how if you went to like their regular play on Wednesdays, when people show up with their decks that they've constructed, that could be a little bit sweatier. But this kind of event was definitely chiller because everyone's seeing the set for the first time. You kind of just make what you can make and you play what you draw. That's kind of what happens. Yeah, and so it felt good.
Pre-releases are always the most fun, laid back versions of whichever game. And so I always go to the Magic pre-releases. They just had the Foundation set came out, and I went on the Friday. I went 3-0.
Nice.
Yeah, we had 30 players. I ended up placing second because of tiebreakers. Pretty usual. I blame my buddy Blair because he played the guy that got first.
And lost too hard?
And no, he lost to him. But then the first tiebreaker that you have is your other opponent's win percentage.
Oh.
So...
Interest. I would figure it was like the disparity in health in your games. How badly you beat the other people.
No, it's the first tiebreaker is like, okay, if I beat you and then I end up going undefeated, a good check of like how good my competition was or how you did against the other people.
Yeah.
So if you won both of those games, that would rank me higher because I was the only one that beat you. And so in Blair's last match, they just played for fun and they just called it a draw. If he would have played and he would have lost, he would have had a lower win percentage. And then I would have tied the guy. And then I had the second tiebreaker better than him. So I would have gotten first. So I said, Blair, why you fucking wimping out and doing a draw when you just play the match and lose like a man?
What if Blair won?
That would have been the same outcome. I still would have got second instead of first. So I blame Blair.
Blair, you should have thrown. What the fuck?
Yeah, if you're just gonna do that, you should have known. You got to help a brother out.
Yeah.
But so the card shop owner for the top 3 placing. So there was 30 players that played. 3 of us went undefeated, and he had like nice, expensive single cards that you could choose from as your winnings, in addition to the prize packs. And the guy that got first, he didn't take the card that I wanted, which was the most expensive card. He took a different card like a fucking chump. So I got the card I would have taken if I got first anyway.
Nice.
So everyone went away happy. So,
Dude, everyone around me is getting into Magic, and they're all just yelling at me to play Magic. Curtis is so fucking deep into it now.
Oh, Curtis.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Curtis is the kind of person that you don't want playing Magic. Actually, Curtis is the kind of person you want to play Magic because he's a strategic, wants to win, wants to do fun things. But also, there are certain forms of Magic, specifically Commander, where you don't need to be a sweaty jerk.
Or you can.
I'm typically considered the sweaty jerk in my group when I'm not trying to. I'm trying to play fun decks, and they are fun.
Just can't help winning.
I just can't help it. Oh, man, I got so many stories. Let's move on from the Preamble Ramble to what we painted.
Let's do it.
You got more things than me. You better start.
All right. I have been working on these Stormtroopers in my Twitch streams previously. These guys came in the same box as the Darth Vader primary unit for Shatterpoint.
Darth Vadar.
And that's the Stormtrooper Sergeant. You can tell he's got that shoulder pad thing.
What is this weird little thing?
That is the top of a miniature holder made by A-Case.
Oh.
They have like a nice little round handle and then a bunch of different kinds of tops, and you can just
magnetic top.
Exactly.
Doesn't it push a little bit though?
It does. That's annoying. The fact that the base is bigger than it and it means you're pushing it around is very annoying.
It slides a lot. But if you kind of grip it like with your thumb and pointer finger,
if the base was just smaller than the thing, I don't think that'd be a problem at all.
Oh, if it fit inside that little groove.
Yeah. But it's a bigger one.
These dudes do have giant ass bases.
They do. Like everyone, minimum is 40 mil.
This is like a 50, isn't it?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I think 50. There's 40 and 50 in the game, and bigger models are on the 50s. I don't know.
Did you put these guys in the wrong besides bases, Scott?
Maybe.
You fucking noob.
Maybe. But painting them in, Santa Claus theme here, red and white. It's going to match the Darth Vader, who's also red. They're like his personal retinue. I'm having fun painting them. And I'll talk about something else in the extended portion of the podcast where we talk about something new we tried. But one thing I'll talk about with these guys is Vallejo Game Color Red is bad. They're bad colors. Like they have, and what I mean by that is they have very bad transparency. They're thick paint, but they don't cover for shit. But that makes them incredibly useful for a specific kind of painting. And when you work on top of an airbrushed layer and you want to like add a little shadow, add a little highlight, if I can put thick paint down that's transparent and feather it out, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
So for this situation, and also maybe for another situation I can't think of right now, but for this one, it's very useful actually that they feather so nicely. They're thick and transparent. So Bloody Gore, Red Scarlet, all those colors. And it's been true forever. Even in the previous Vallejo Game Color range, they had the same color paint. It's called Red Gore. And it was fucking bad then too. And it's still bad, but useful for this situation.
Yeah, you have really nice transitions, and I can tell which ones are that color.
Yeah,
they're slightly more matte than the under.
Yeah, it's a little more satin on the airbrush stuff.
Yep.
And I didn't do too much work on their legs and stuff, mostly on the head and shoulders and torso.
Because that tells you, by that being there, that tells you that the rest of that armor is all that color. It's just in shadow.
Yeah, and I haven't finished that guy's torso yet. I did his like upper body, but I haven't done like his rib cage yet.
You did paint his storm boobs.
I did paint his boobs. Yep, his sculpted boobies.
Yep.
But yeah, those are some Stormtroopers. What did you work on?
I painted a model from the upcoming Kickstarter, Deo God 2, and this is actually the first time, I think, in the history of my channel, that I have painted a model that is not for the next video.
Oh, okay.
It's for 2 videos down the road. And that's because we're in a little bit of I'm working with Kingdom Death on a model for my next video, and that hasn't arrived yet.
And tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah. And the video comes out a week from tomorrow, and I've got to spend most of next week actually editing and making the video. So that's just why we're recording the podcast a day early, so I can get all day tomorrow to paint. But anyway, I've had to do a little bit of rescheduling of things, and one of those things where I'm like, I got to keep busy, I got to do something. I'm like, well, I'm just going to paint this guy. And he's like a high elf, and it's really interesting because it's actually part of a duel. So there's like an evil elf, and then there's a good elf. And Vince painted the evil elf, and I painted the good elf.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'll talk about in the after party is how I used decisions Vince made on his model, because his was 100% painted, and I brought it back home with me from VinceCon.
Oh.
And using some decisions he made to influence how I painted it. So
Fully NMM armored man.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of, and like on his chest and on his bracers and stuff, that it's like, I just basically painted a neutral. It kind of could be interpreted as bronze. I didn't make it go as bright as bronze, but I wanted the colors of like gold and silver to be more obvious on the armor. So I wanted that color to be kind of a neutral, so it didn't overtake those other two, because otherwise a lot would be going on. But I painted him in warms because Vince painted his guy, the bad guy, in cool colors. And then as I'm painting him, I realized, I'm like, this guy looks like something. And I'm like, he looks like fucking Thor. If he was wielding Meow Meow, he would be Thor.
Meow meow.
Instead, he's got a longsword, because his helmet specifically is like an exact Thor helmet. So I'm like, Thor's helmet is always painted 100% silver. So I painted that whole thing silver. And so I went with a Thor color scheme. And in Thor's color scheme, he's got a dark blue, but because I wanted this guy to be mostly warm, I tried to keep that as an accent color and keep everything else the more warm tones. But it's 54 millimeter model. Really fun to paint 54 millimeter models because they're small enough that it doesn't feel overwhelming. They feel like the things that you learn from and are used to for painting a 32 millimeter model translate pretty well. You just get a little bit more space, a little bit more breathing room. So they're really my ideal kind of display model size when, when I just want to paint something different. They're really great for that. And fun pose, but yeah, so that's what I painted.
I think the way you broke up the color scheme is really nice, and I think it deserves some attention. You have like this red cape that you can see like in between the shoulder and his neck, and then again there, and then again on the undershirt, and then again you like line the pouches in red as well. Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned his chest being like a brassy color, which is different than like the gold right below it.
Yeah,
same color as his mohawk, same color as his forearm, same color as his legs. God damn it. And it is a more muted color scheme. Mm-hmm. There's the red's poppy, the gold's kind of poppy, but not so much. And it's all just very nicely arranged on the figure. I think that definitely deserves some attention.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I love what you said about the blue. You're like, this is an homage to Thor. I'm making it work with what I have going on, and so because of that, I'm going to make it desaturated. That was a fucking genius choice. And I can even see it in the sword blade. The sword blade has some blue in the shadows, but then also goes warm in the highlights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted that, and I wanted the more. My worry was especially with the red cape was that was going to draw your attention too far away from the central part of the figure, which is his head and chest. So I made those more warm and more saturation in his skin tone specifically.
Okay.
To draw your eye there a little bit more, and then that shiny kind of highlight on the helmet to kind of draw you in there. But trying to be subtle about even the highlights, the further you get away from the center of the figure, the less the highlights build. The most obvious example of that is that kind of bronze color is the same thing on his legs as it is on his chest and his bracers, but it's much, much less brought up to a highlight. And actually that that shadow color used for those is actually a Payne's Gray, which is like a desaturated blue. But a lot more of that for that shadow is shown in the legs, but it's still present on those other parts, but it's just much less seen.
Okay. Very cool. I think it looks really nice.
And they're really cool. I'll try to take a good picture because I don't have them glued together because their bases kind of just fit together by one little thing. A shot of my dude and Vince's dude. And
are you responsible for sending both of them to Andy, or are you responsible for taking photos for his Kickstarter campaign? How does this work?
I better ask Andy about that.
Yeah.
I sent him that picture, the one that you're looking at right now. I didn't bring it today because I don't have my final glamour shots taken of it, and I'm nervous.
Yeah, that's fine.
The resin model to bring it somewhere. I would have no problem if I'm like, oh, I've taken all the pictures for it or whatever, but I would always bring it. But I haven't done that yet. And while I was painting it, I told you this before we started recording, I had tipped the model over on my desk, didn't even fully drop it. Nothing broke, but he landed on that sword, which is a resin sword. And I was like, I heard a click. And I'm like, no. And I looked, nothing broke off. Surprisingly, the sword the resin has enough bend to it that it's not so brittle, it just snapped. But it must have bent enough that it cracked off most of the paint around the bottom half of the sword after I had just finished painting all the NMM of the sword. And so it like broke off even down to the primer. So I just like put a coat of like gray on the front and a darker gray in the back of regular paint to act as a fucking primer, and it kind of stuck. And so that repainting of the NMM sword is not as good as the first paint job that I did. But anytime you do something, if you've got to immediately redo it or something, like you're just like, I don't have the gumption, man.
Dude, yeah, with swords too, especially with this kind of sword, there's 4 sides. It's like a diamond, right?
I know.
You got to do that same thing 4 times.
Not only is it a diamond, there's a little line that runs down the middle that's in shadow.
Nice.
You got to run that. And then you got to edge highlight around that because that's recessed. And then the edges along either side of it, then you have to highlight. And it's like, I had that so crispy the first time. The second time, I'm like, it looks pretty good. It's fine.
Same with the shoulders too, right? You have front face left, front face right, and then back face left and right.
Those shoulders were the shittiest fucking thing to paint on that model.
Yeah.
They were, because they're like basically waves of an ocean are the shapes. They come to a kind of a crisp peak on each of those waves, but it's so hard, especially when you're doing it with NMM. And I was knowing going into that I was going to paint those gold because it's the same like shape and form that is on his like torso armor, so they need to match because they're like look like they're the same kind of design. Mm-hmm. And I wanted that torso piece to be gold because I thought that was like drawing the eye up to the face with light, and it's really good shapes for that. But that also meant the shoulders had to be gold, and I wasn't nearly as confident in pulling those off, and they worked out okay. But that was a struggle.
Okay. I painted some more Shatterpoint stuff. I sent you a picture of it because I painted him at home. His name is Delmico. He is part of...
We have Shatterpoint at home.
We have Shatterpoint at home. He's part of the Inferno Squad with Eden Versio and Gideon Hask. They're like the elite troopers of the Empire. He's like the sniper guy. And I painted just his face and a little bit of his black uniform. He's supposed to have brown hair and stuff, but I went with blonde because I like to change things up. I love painting faces. This is another one where I was at home. I didn't have a primer, and so I just used some random spray can that's been in my basement for like a decade.
What's the worst that could happen?
And the worst happened. Like
he's covered in a fine mist of texture.
Yeah, kinda. I could get most of it off, but I think if you see like on his chest, there's like this kind of like gravelly texture, and that came from that spray can. So I'm just gonna bring home a primer. I have like 1 million here. I don't need them all here.
No.
On the off chance that I do spray a model while I'm at home. And then lastly, I worked on Drazar. And by the time this video comes out, this podcast, the video should be out. It's for next Monday. I've already painted Drazar kind of, and so This was a familiar experience. Did a little bit of conversion, got rid of his soulstone necklace that I've never really been a fan of. It just blocks all of this awesome torso detail that you see on all the incubi. Incubus? Incubussy? No.
Incubibis.
And I love seeing that. I want to see it. It's such a strong part of their model. I gave him a different head. I know Drazar is supposed to be a mystery, and you don't know who he is. Is he a fallen Phoenix Lord? Who knows? But I kind of just assumed that he was a hierarch, which is the term that they use, the leader of an incubi shrine, where they all go to like fight and compete and stuff like that. And then I gave him a different like gladiator style weapon. I was considering giving him the weapon that you see Drazar having in the old version of the model, which are like these like kind of praying mantis style blades. But I didn't have something like that. And I couldn't scratch build it like quickly enough. And I like how that chain thing worked with the motion of the model. It's kind of like flinging outward. So is his hair. His necklace would have been too if I included it, but I just didn't. But yeah, happy with the paint job.
It's a great example of like subtle kit bashing that it's made to feel like it wasn't a kit bash.
Yeah.
You know? Like you're right. A lot of that has to do with the movement and the pose, and if those feel like the parts that you add feel like they are in that same realm instead of a more static version. And you know, if I didn't know this model already, I wouldn't have guessed that this head and this weapon weren't originally part of the kit.
Perfect.
Which is what you're looking for, and you nailed it.
Thank you so much.
This is so cool.
I also like just like you never see an incubi. Incubibi. You never see an incubibi without their helmet on, and so seeing a one without his helmet is kind of like it's a little bit of like a shock, you know. It's like I don't know. You watched The Mandalorian. I don't know if you saw this part, but there's this guy named Cobb Vanth who is like a sheriff of Mos. It's not Mos Eisley. It's like a different one. Mos Pelos. He's like the sheriff, and he happens to stumble upon Boba's old armor set, and he's not a Mandalorian, but he just fucking wears it. And the first time you meet him is in a bar, and he just takes his helmet off, which Mandos are not supposed to do, right? And so it's like this kind of like shock, like, oh, a person in Mandalorian armor can also not wear their helmet. And so it's kind of like a shock, like a little geeky, irreverent moment where it's like, okay, this guy doesn't have a helmet. And so I kind of wanted that little bit of Cobb Vanth vibe.
Yeah, it totally works.
Cool.
And I think you change enough things where it doesn't say immediately like, oh, this is Drazar.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was thinking about changing the base too, have them like kind of like tiptoeing across like cacti and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That felt a little too goofy, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like the Super Mario cacti that are just like three balls on top of each other.
He's platforming around.
Yeah. Burn. Yeah, that would be the thing. If you had a different base, because his base is so iconic for this sculpture.
It is, yeah.
But I really like that you added like the does that look like some kind of what do you call that? Like a streaking grime that's a dust streaking grime?
Exactly. It's an enamel wash.
That's dusty enamel wash that are the light ones are so nice when they get
on that
into
black
recesses.
rock too. Yeah, and it's got like all that runic carving. So yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah, usually when you think of weathering things, you think of the surface of the thing being a lighter color and the weathering being a darker color or a richer color that's adding the contrast that way. It's fun when you flip it on its head and you do it the other way.
Absolutely.
So it definitely fits the scene that he's in too with your sandy boys.
Mm-hmm, my sandy boys. I did not paint that guy especially. So like, the scheme that I apply to my Incu BBs is the exact same that I did for him. Apart from painting an unhelmeted head, which definitely adds to the overall impact of the model. But I'm just happy that scheme is good enough to translate to a character and have it still work well.
It does. It's really solid, and he's got a lot of detail on his armor.
Yes.
And you use that to keep it interesting instead of adding a bunch of other colors.
Yes. Also, I am just really, to use an English term, I'm really chuffed with oil washes lately. I think I have a series of steps here that really works And Dark Eldar models were fucking made to be oil washed, bro.
Oh yeah.
Like even more than Space Marines. They have the segmented armor. It's just, and it works so freaking well. So yeah, I'm really happy that I've kind of tamed that beast.
You figured out like is it been like a consistency thing for like the amount to thin and that kind of thing, or the cleanup step, or both? Or?
Yeah, it's both. I think there are three things. I think if you want a super clean look, a glossy spray helps a ton with the cleanup part. Second thing, you want to thin the oil wash as little as possible, so it's as thick as possible, but still runs a little bit, because having more pigment in the wash makes it heavier and makes it move less. Because what I found is when you oil wash something, you let it sit there, gravity does its shit. Yeah, and it just keeps going. So if it's heavier, it moves less.
And it once it dries, it doesn't give you that grainy texture because enough of the pigment is still there, so it gives you that nice solid line that you're looking for.
Yes. Also, oil wash is split like a motherfucker. So I think you need to mix that thing every minute. Because like when I'm oil washing, I kind of just dip my paintbrush into like the top of my little weld palette, and after a minute, that wash that's on the top that's settling is now a much thinner wash. Yeah. So you need to mix it frequently, and then you also have to wait a long time. If I wait 12 to 18 hours, I can still clean the model without mineral spirits. And even after 2+ days, it's still cleanable with a brush and mineral spirits. So really give it time to cook. And then once you give it time to cook, and you come back to clean it, all that stuff, that nice thicker oil wash will stick in the recesses.
Yeah.
That's the high level. And I want to make a video where I go into like depth and do like a sciencey kind of video where it's like I have like this 3D object and I test all these different dilutions and different products and like really kind of nail it down. But those are the high points for sure.
Yeah. Yep. And because you're working with a thicker dilution, you are going to have a longer working time, a longer curing time, and that you're using that understanding to your advantage.
Yeah. Yes.
In your cleanup.
Yes. And I could use liquid to speed it up, but that would just change the whole test. I'd have to figure out the right amount of time to wait with liquid, which is an accelerant for oil washes.
Which is another variable.
Yeah, another variable, exactly.
Yep.
That could be good for some people to figure out what the right amount of time is to speed up the process.
Yep. Cool. So you try to like pin wash, but understand it's not perfect, but you have this magical eraser that you can use later to clean up that pin wash.
Yep. And if you wait a long time and then you clean up certain things with a super like thin brush with mineral spirits in it, but yeah, so you can, after a couple days with a brush and mineral spirits, you can clean up very specific parts and get really nice thin lines. You're almost like cutting away the oil paint at that point. And it doesn't take that long. I need the steps, so it's nice.
I used to do quite a bit of work with oils, and I haven't in over a year, maybe 2 years at this point, where I haven't done very much of it.
Yeah. There is a whole other way to work with oil washes. Obviously, you can paint with them, but you can do a thick oil wash on a matte varnished model and get a much different look. And that's a thing that I haven't really looked into much. I'm just going for, I want recessed shading. I just don't want to do the work. And this is it's like 4 to 6 times. It's like 4 times faster. It's amazing.
So you get ready for part of that is planning and prep, right?
Yes.
So like you're doing all the steps you need done before the oil wash step, but no more.
Yep.
And then you gloss varnish the whole model?
Yep, gloss varnish it. And then once I'm done with the whole oil wash step, then I'll matte it again with like really thin matte varnish, so I can kind of like sneak up on the kind of matte satin varnish that I want. So if I thin it a lot, then it like applies really slowly and doesn't really cover up all the gloss that fast. But I can like do 2-3 coats until I get the varnish I'm after.
Where you want. That's cool. I got, when I did more videos that used oils, I got a lot of negative pushback of like people that are just like, I can't even use regular paints. I don't want you want to do this, use toxic chemicals and using all this other weird stuff. You're asking me to buy all this other weird stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just showing you another thing.
Just showing you what I do. Yeah.
But it got kind of tiring.
Yeah.
Honestly. And so I was like, oh, I guess people don't care about this. But that doesn't mean that people don't care about it. This means that the loudest voices are the ones that you often hear.
The ones that are whining the most. It's interesting how like the audience's response and how the performance of a video really shapes our hobby, what we choose to focus on and stuff. And it happens like unintentionally, I find. Like we're not intentionally doing it, but it definitely influences a little bit.
I found that like I subconsciously do way less airbrushing for that same reason.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I found like I ended up pulling for that DeoGuard model. I ended up pulling up the airbrush at the end, and I was like, oh, this is weird. I found like this is the thing I should be doing often in this kind of a model, but I just found like I don't do it because you lose people. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't fucking do that. This is the right thing. This is the easiest thing. This is the most efficient thing. I'm going to show it. And it was like adding that. I asked Vince, I only asked him one question about his paint job to influence me. And it was at the very end. I'm like, Vince, what paint did you use for that cool blue shadow that's from behind and below? Because I want that color to be the same color light. Because it's a very distinct like turquoise. And he told me it's AK 3rd Gen blue-green. I'm like, cool. And I'm like, well, I already actually put in the directional highlights for all of that on all those backward-facing surfaces. Purposely built them up to highlights, cool highlights with the colors that I was already using. But then just thinned down a tint of that blue-green and followed those highlights very faintly to slowly build them up and basically recolorized all the highlight work I had done from that backlight with just this tint of color.
Nice.
I could have done washes and done that same thing, and it would have taken me 10 times longer, and it wouldn't have been as smooth.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck that. So
yeah,
it's an example of like just little stuff with an airbrush.
Using the right tool for the job.
Yeah. Yep. That's just it. That is what we painted.
What did you paint? Let us know in the Facebook group below.
Yeah, share some pictures of your miniatures. They do have a free miniature for Trench Crusade, which is not...
Oh, they do?
Yeah, free STL download.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh. If I had my content creator cap on,
yeah,
I think it would have been great to grab that model and paint it for a video.
I know. That's why I saved the link. So I think I might want to do that.
It might still be enough time to do it if you were a content creator.
Right. But anyway... all right, for today's topic, we've got some would you rathers. Would you rather?
Would you rather?
Did you come up with these? Where did these come from?
No, I did not come up with them. They came from, I put the name in here. Oh, this is the Time Machine. This is the Time Machine one. No, not Jakey.
Adam Holmes?
Adam Holmes, that's it. Yes, Adam Holmes, one of our patrons. As part of being a patron is you can submit models for us to get feedback on, but also while doing that, you can submit topics for us to discuss, which is what Adam did. So here's what he said. Hey guys, love the show and wanted to suggest a game to play that I think could lead to some great mini painting discussions. Would love to hear you go for a few rounds of hobby Would You Rather. I played this with some friends and thought it would make for a great episode. A few of the questions we asked are below, and I'm sure you can come up with some more. I didn't. I just took all 6.
But it does lead me to think that we'd love, after we go through these, our patrons to submit, because there's a spot on there for submitting your topics, to submit your own Would You Rathers.
Yeah.
Because this might be a great recurring thing we do every X number of months or once a year or something.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it's an idea that's got some legs.
They probably get more and more deranged.
All right, let's get off with number 1. Would you rather every time you painted a model, you're guaranteed to knock over the pot or the dropper bottle cap pops off, or you can only use synthetic brushes for the rest of your life? I think I'm taking the paint pot falling over.
So every time, I have to think of worst case scenario here, right?
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, every time you paint, you're knocking over an entire bottle of contrast paint.
Which is not, you don't lose all of it, but I would say you lose like at least half.
Yes.
You know?
The last time I did it was with my brand new fucking Agrax Earthshade that I had just spent $92 for, however much they fucking cost. And I grabbed it immediately. It was almost a full bottle. I grabbed it immediately, and I lost 60-70% of it.
Oh God. So basically,
it's that, or when you're in your wet palette. So there's the bottle thing. Like, I only use bottles. You know that you're risking it every time that you squeeze the bottle and nothing comes out. You know there's a clog.
I know. And
I
always
squeeze
push
harder?
it. I always push it, dude. It happened 2 times in not the most recent video, but the one before that. Literally, I cracked 2 bottles in that fucking video while filming, and I had it on camera, both of them. That was ridiculous. Yeah, and I lost like at least half of the bottle of paint.
Yeah.
The question is, do you want to essentially pay $4 to paint every time, but still get to use great brushes, or not pay that and use mostly bad brushes, but there are a couple synths that are pretty okay? I think I take the money. I pay.
Yeah, I'm paying that money. I'm not. It sucks. It sucks. Well, what it would force me to do is rotate through my paint collection till they're all half empty.
Yeah, you got enough paint. You don't got to pay anything. You already paid the price.
No, the problem is when I have to like get one that's from a set that you can't buy single.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's another thought that I didn't have.
It's like
the rare paints.
Yeah, or like something that's like a Chimera paint where you can't buy singles of Chimera.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But
shit, I didn't think about that. Because the paint that you would ostensibly be like losing is the stuff you want to use, right? Yeah,
right. Yeah. It's the good ones.
There's
it's the ones you use a lot, dude. What if it's the time that you pull out the golden so flats and it's the giant fucking jar,
or like Molotov chrome and just lose all that shit?
Your whole painting desk within 6 months, your whole painting desk is just a fucking Jackson Pollock painting.
This question is taking a new turn here.
It's an ugly turn. Also, you got to think about when you squeeze the bottle and it blows up there. How much time it's going to take you, because all your color mixes and your individual puddles for the other colors, so many of them are now, they're contaminated. You got to redo the whole wet palette. You got to do all that.
You might get shit on like your pants and your shirt, which I fucking hate doing because it never comes out.
I don't own a single pair of blue jeans now that doesn't have paint. See, look at that. There's one fucking right there. Right fucking there. Rust orange right there.
I have a pair of pants that is dedicated for painting that I always wear because it's a problem.
It's just who I am. I don't give a shit. I'm not going anywhere. It's like there's paint on my
I'm
pants.
not going anywhere ever.
Where am I going? Where am I going to? Home Depot? They gonna judge me? Fuck y'all.
Does your wife not take issue with it? My wife grew up in a house that was very focused on that kind of stuff. And like whenever they're going out, they'd be like, "Oh, like you're looking rough." And so my wife is very focused on that as well. And she's like, "Oh, you have no pants that are like not filthy." And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It doesn't matter that much to me." But does your wife not give you any grief for that?
No, I think it's because we grew up in the grunge era, where that was a look.
Okay, yeah.
So you're just kind of like, oh, I guess my husband's just a schlub. So that's that.
Is it worth it for synthetic brushes, which aren't always bad? I painted the majority of the Duchess with a synthetic gray-handled Taklon brush. Like 80% of that model, like even the finer details, was just a brush that was just like strangely awesome.
You got that winner, that once in a million.
But like, I don't think I've ever gotten a brush quite like that ever again.
I know you got it. Like you buy that 20-pack at Michael's craft store.
There's like 2.
You're hoping there's one in there.
Yeah, 2 or 1. Yeah.
And it's not even that it's perfectly sharp. Sometimes it's got a little curve to it, but like you learn to lean into that little curve.
Work with the hook. Yeah.
That hook is a tool. It's not a
like you're scraping away paint and shit. It's like a shepherd's hook.
I'm still taking the fucking spilled over paints, dude.
I don't know. What if in the future they produce synthetic brushes that are just like, see, that's not part of the question though.
You can hold out hope. You can hold out hope, or like you can learn to become a master of whatever tools are at your disposal. The ancient ninjas were all townsfolk that needed to be able to rise up against the oppressive lords of their land. And they became masters of the tools they had at hand and could deal with these scary samurai dudes with a fucking broom and a scythe. So maybe you would actually just become a better painter with synthetic brushes over time. You definitely would.
So you're picking that option?
No. No, fuck that.
Yeah, I think I'm sticking with the natural hair bristle brushes.
It sucks though. It sucks. When you first read this question, I first glanced it over. I'm like, this is not even a good would you rather because it's so obvious. But as we look into how shitty it would be, and the time investment every time you knock something over, and how you'd turn away from every model you painted being frustrated because you fucking spilled something again.
You might stop. Yeah,
You might stop painting.
it's a risk I'm willing to take.
Give me that sweet $25 sable. Yeah. I'll take it. And it's like, God, it's a better question than I thought. But you know, I'm not saying to each that's what everyone should do, though. I'm saying that's what I would do.
Okay.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a difference of opinions on this next one. Would you rather have the mental fortitude to complete any army project to the highest possible standard, or you're guaranteed to take silver in any painting contest you enter, but will never finish an army?
Have the mental fortitude to complete any army project to the highest possible standard. Ooh, highest possible standard means...
Does that mean like you're painting every model like a Golden Demon model?
You're,
I think we're going to assume that's not the case.
I would say you'd win armies on parade.
Okay.
Which is not the same as a Golden Demon,
No.
but it's
good.
still phenomenal
Yeah.
to do that across an entire army.
Yes.
So you have the mental fortitude to be able to do that, but it still takes you the amount of time.
Right.
It's still going to take you for fucking ever, but you would be like, no, I'm just going to fucking plug away and I can do it. That is the hardest part of painting an army to a high level,
Yeah.
is to stick with it and just keep plowing that field. Or you're guaranteed to take silver in any painting contest you enter, but will never finish an army. So guaranteed to take silver, does that mean only silver? You'll never get gold?
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, that makes that one rough. You always got something to fight for. If I know I'm going to take silver no matter what.
Yeah. I feel like
That's a tough question.
there's the assumption is that like, okay, I can just put in like a totally garbage paint job and I'll get a silver. I think we have to also assume that you are trying hard. You are trying to win and painting a long, 60 to 100 hour paint job. You try to win, but you're always going to get a silver. For me, it's the army. But I think that's just kind of where I'm at right now in my hobby. I think if you were somewhere else, you would pick the silver. Because silver's great, You got silver. Crystal brush, right?
I did, yes.
That felt good, didn't it?
Yes, that felt good. Yeah. That was at a time where I didn't know what miniature painting competitions really were, so that was my first hit of the crack. And that got me addicted to it. So yeah, that was great. Yeah, I'd do that. I immediately thought that I was going to take the silver. However, it really bugs me that I could never win a gold. That would probably kill competition entirely for me.
So is the assumption that you can, like, if you pick the first option, you would never place if you competed?
No, I don't take it as that. I take it as like that competition side of things. It's left to whatever merits and dedication and everything you do.
Okay.
But to me, having the mental fortitude to paint an entire army to an Armies on Parade winning standard, that mental toughness translates to so many other things.
There's a painting competition model.
Yeah, and it translates to painting anything. Like, getting over that is the hardest thing. So I'm going to choose the one that gives me more mental balls.
Okay.
I want them mental balls.
You want balls on your brain, dude.
I want brain balls.
Brain balls. Okay, let's make it more interesting. If you pick the first option, whenever you enter a competition, you will not place.
No, I can't do that.
Okay, so you pick the silver.
Then I take the silver.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really give a shit about painting competitions.
That makes it easy then.
Yeah, so I go with the army for sure. But like, if you asked me that question 5 years ago, I 100% would have picked the silver trophy thing, But like, maybe in 5 years from now, I'd pick the silver trophy option because that's gonna be important to me then. But right now, I'm really enjoying painting things for games, not even games that I play. Just like I like seeing the completed squad or whatever army. It's just really satisfying.
Yeah, to me, it's not even necessarily that like I want to be painting for competition all the time. There are those painters that's all they do.
Yes.
It's I guess maybe it's just my weird American upbringing of you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. You can, if you tried hard enough and you put in the effort, and it's something, especially if it's something that you have some level of innate skill for, desire for, drive for, that you could be amazing. And for the same reason that I say I wouldn't pick the one if I could never, I would never place. Also, if you'd never get higher than a silver, I want to feel like there's no ceiling. The only limit to my ceiling is what I put in.
Yeah.
And that feeling of like you're limited no matter what you do, you'll never be better than that. Doesn't matter how great that is, that like it immediately turns me off to it. Like I want the excitement of unlimited potential. And if you ask me in my heart of hearts, am I ever going to be the best painter ever? Am I ever going to win a Slayer sword? All these kinds of, amazing things, best in show, Monty Sansevino. No. I don't expect that those things will probably ever happen. But I like to be able to think that if that's something I set as my sights and I drove myself for, that it's at least a possibility. And if you're taking away that possibility, that would probably suck so much of my joy out of miniature painting as a whole. Even when you're painting something for fun, painting something and it's a speed paint, painting and hanging out, painting your character for a game or whatever, you just want to get it done. It's somehow, to me, still tied to, this is still the same hobby, and there's still a value in me and getting repetitions and getting better with my brush, doing something not to the best of my abilities. That will translate to no matter how I want to paint. And I love that aspect of this hobby. Speed painting a unit in 3 hours, I do take something away from that helps me to grow to the ceiling of what I'm capable of. And so I just like that feeling of the no glass ceiling on my potential. So I will choose the mental fortitude to paint a whole army.
Okay. Where do you stand on the debate about like talent, natural talent versus earned skill? Like,
And it comes to specifically miniature painting?
just in general. We can talk about it through the lens of miniature painting, but like, do you think there is a thing? So like, there's this thing of like, if I want to play basketball and I'm 6'10", that is something you can't overcome if you're short, maybe, I don't know. But more artistic stuff. Do you think people are naturally creative, naturally artistic?
100%.
You think so?
100%. There's the reason why there was the kid in everybody's class when they were little kids. That was the drawer, the best drawer in the classroom. Best drawer. If you were the best drawer, it wasn't because, you just drew 10 times more than everyone else and you were shitty as the same as all of them. There was some innate talent. And anything as humans that we do, that we find that we have some talent for, we're naturally gifted at, we tend to do more often.
Yeah, because it feels good.
And then it's a roller coaster downhill, right? Because you keep getting better because you keep doing it and building off of that talent. The talent is a starting point, and it may give you a further down the road starting point than somebody else. But that somebody else could catch you if you don't capitalize on that innate talent. And that doesn't mean even that they couldn't catch you even if you do capitalize on it. They just may spend more time. They may do more research. They may learn more about color theory and shape and volume and human anatomy and all these other things that are really, really valuable. I think in art and specifically in miniature painting that it's something that helps you off the starting blocks, but it is not the thing that's going to make you win competitions or not.
I find that interesting because you had that. You mentioned how you like that there's this potential for greatness, which I totally agree with. And I think that's such an amazing driving force for a lot of people is that you can do anything you want. You just have to be willing to put in the hours. I love that sentiment so much. That I kind of feel like people who are naturally talented, and this is really coming down to nature versus nurture, are people that grew up in a house where the mom was an art teacher, or where the sister was interested in drawing and I'm the younger brother and I learned from my sister. Essentially opportunity, right? Opportunity put me in a place that I didn't ask for, but that I was given, that gave me a path to learn the thing that I am, quote unquote, naturally talented at, right? It's so interesting to think about how someone could be naturally better at drawing people, you know? It's like, really? Does that really exist? I also think about how discouraging that is for some people, you know? It's like, oh, I didn't get the DNA, so I'm fucked. And it's like, no, bro, you're not. Like, everything is there for the taking.
Yeah. That doesn't mean your ceiling, going back to like the basketball example, that doesn't mean if you're 5'3" that you're going to be you could be the next LeBron James. Your ceiling could be that you could actually play in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Like Spud Webb, I think, was 5'2" or 5'3". He was fucking tiny. And he played in the NBA and played for many years and was good. But that doesn't mean he was ever going to lead the league in scoring, you know, or be the MVP of the league. So his ceiling, he probably got about as good top of his ceiling as almost humanly possible. But that doesn't mean everyone's ceiling is the exact same height, but it's still really high. Your potential is always really high. That doesn't mean everyone's potential is the exact same, but it's all much higher than you probably think it could be. Number 3.
Number 3. Oh, you want to read this one?
Sure. Would you rather be forced to paint every miniature while it was still on the sprue? Oh, God. Or every time you prime a miniature, it comes out textured and uneven. Ah!
I mean, definitely on the sprue, right? You can't fix the texture from a primer. I can fix the clipping, you know, issues from painting a model and then taking it off and then fixing those little spots. But I can't fix.
But you could only paint it when it's on the sprue. Once you clip it off and put it together, you can't paint it anymore, right?
That's what's being said here.
Okay, let's read.
I'm all for reformatting these to make them more interesting.
Be forced to paint every miniature while it was still on the sprue. I take that as you can only paint it while it's on the sprue.
Okay.
Flip it up. Now, that's
good.
That's rough, though.
No, that makes this a great question because I don't know what I would pick. Those are both mini painting hell to me.
Now, I have had models that I have primed and have had the texture, the little, it looks like a little sandpaper grit, and gone through with a fine piece of sandpaper, and you can sand that off. It sucks if you have to do it every single time.
You do it to someone's face? You do it to a model's face?
I mean, you got to use like a 2,000 grit or 1,500 grit.
You do that?
Yeah, I've done it before. I did it last year on my Golden Demon piece.
What the fuck?
Because I fucked up one of the models.
Oh no!
And I had to sand the whole fucking thing really with little tiny circles. I wet sanded it.
Why didn't you just strip it?
Because I'm more like I kit bashed the thing and it was in a specific pose and all this. It was like
sure.
I'm thinking how much time am I?
Yeah.
I mean, if it came down to it, I was going to do that, but I was like, no, I kind of fixed it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you did fix it.
Yeah,
it worked.
it worked. But to do that every single time you paint every single model, that would be that. There's an example of something that would really get you from painting very much. Or when you're just painting for speed painting and stuff, like sometimes you can't really tell.
Okay, what if we change the question to say you can't wet sand off the bumps?
And you can't wet sand off the bumps. And once you
clip the model,
you can't do anything to the painting.
Yeah, but like that's not like the texture isn't like insane, you know. Right. But it's like it's there.
It's there.
You can see it. Those are both awful.
No, this fucking topic's making me miserable.
I think I go with the sprue clipping because at the very least, they tend to be on like the outside perimeter of the model. If you get really close and you have a really sharp pair of side cutters, the damage will be very minimal. And at least it won't be all over the figure. But it's definitely worse. Like the damage is definitely worse from that than the bumpy texture from primer. It's bad. This is bad.
You'd have to like choose the models that you painted based on like
the sprue.
The sprue that they're.
It's like, oh, this is going to be too much of a problem for me. I can't do this.
I mean, you're best off painting like the single GW Heroes that is one small sprue and it's just like, dude. And then you'd have to like look at like, can I get to the right parts of the model based on working on it in just a 2-dimensional plane?
And then everything's a subassembly. You got to put it all together once you're done painting it on sprue. Or does it just stay in the sprue?
No, I think you can still assemble
Okay, yeah,
it.
that's got to be the assumption.
Once you make that first clip, then you the paintbrushes are away forever.
Yeah. Ugh.
I think I would adapt my painting style and my painting approach to where I would lean into the uneven primer.
Okay. Maybe like some stippling. And,
Yeah.
okay.
You could kind of camouflage it, and you could work with a bunch of wild colors and brush strokes and things that there's other noise going on, that it's not just a clean, hyper smooth surface where those texture things are.
You could paint bigger figures where the texture is less of an issue. Yeah.
I think I'd choose that one, and I'm sad that I have to pick.
That's another thing that would be like, I don't want to paint anymore. If this is what I have to do.
Would you rather paint a miniature spider while surrounded in a tank full of spiders, or paint a miniature snake while surrounded in a tank full of snakes? Fucking neither.
How do you want to die, Mr. Bond?
Would you rather have to cut off your own right hand and paint with that right hand with a paintbrush taped to that right hand with your left hand?
It's like a fucking Captain Hook like kind of thing.
Or be blind?
Oh, there's got to be a would you rather question here where it was would you rather paint with your non-dominant hand, you know? Like you lose your fucking right hand if you're righty and have to paint left-handed. Like that's got to be a question.
That's a good one. Would you rather
paint left-handed?
have to paint left-handed, or your non-dominant hand the rest of your life, or you can continue to paint right-handed for the rest of your life, but your left hand is chopped off?
Oh fuck! I was gonna think like, or your vision is like really bad, you know, and like even the magnifiers in glasses don't really help. It's always a little fuzzy.
Oh fuck! Yuck!
Left hand or right hand with a little bit of fuzz in the eyes.
I think I could teach myself.
I think I could too. Yeah.
I'm left eye dominant, and I do some things left-handed.
How the fuck do you know that?
That's because I shoot a gun left-handed.
Oh.
So whatever eye you look, I'm left-footed. I drum left-handed.
Are you goofy? Do you skate goofy or do you skate regular?
I skate goofy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm weird. I shoot a hockey stick left-handed, but I bat right-handed.
That is weird.
I drum left-handed, but I play guitar right-handed.
Okay.
So I think I could do the left-handed thing.
Okay.
My mom said when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, and I drew and colored, I just switch hands back and forth.
Oh wow.
So I think I could do the left-handed. Although it would probably, like, by the time I was like an old man, I'd probably be about as good as I am now, which would still suck. The frustration of knowing you could do what you want to do and you know you're capable of, but you can't do because this fucking claw doesn't work.
That's the other element of this that I'm not considering is that we can already paint with sable hair brushes with our right hand with perfect vision, and we're just having things taken away.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like that's
The knowledge you have
yeah.
is fucking worse. All right, so I choose the tank full of snakes, not the tank full of spiders. Fuck spiders, dude. Spiders they can all die.
Yeah, again, none of those sound very good. All right, number 4. Would you rather lose all of your understanding of light and shadow or lose all your brush control skills? Is the assumption you can't get them back?
I think the assumption is you can get them back, but you would get them back at a natural level, or like it was eraser. You got the Men in Black or mind eraser,
Okay.
and then you had to like relearn from square roots from square one. It reminds me of that Mitch Hedberg joke. I watched an infomercial, and the guy says, "Forget everything you know about slipcovers," and then he went on to try to sell me slipcovers, and I don't know what the fuck he was talking about.
You took it literally.
Okay. Lose all of your understanding of light and shadow, or lose all your brush control skills. To me, this is easy.
This is easy.
I cannot lose my brush control skills.
Nope, I'm a GW style slut through and through. I want everything to be clean as fuck. That's more important to me than understanding a light and shadow.
Yeah, I think it's the non-sexy answer for the most important thing in all of miniature painting is brush control.
You know what understanding of light and shadow looks like with no brush control? It's an art student who's never painted a model before painting a model.
Right. Yeah, you've seen those.
You've seen them, yeah. And it's like, okay, I can see something here, but it's like I think what really renders a model like in our hobby is nice, crispy brush control, all the details looking right and being treated appropriately.
Because it's so small,
Yeah.
you need definition.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you can't have a 7 out of 10 brush control, 10 out of 10 understanding of light and shadow, and that's not great. It still can be phenomenal, but you need to pass some bar in the brush control detail definition step. You know, you don't have to be a 10 out of 10, but the higher you go on that scale, like, it's shocking. It just has to do with the medium that we're doing. You know?
How are you painting your figures if you're not doing it with light and shadow?
You start off because you have the ability to relearn from square one again, but you start off with basically painting like GW box art. They don't do light and shadow very much.
You're right. It's just kind of like a base coat and then a couple edge highlights.
And it's, you know, it's for most of us in the hobby, when you don't have an art background, you have to really make it simplified or just copy an example of the fold on his shirt. Wherever there's a fold, I paint that a little bit darker. I put a little bit of wash in there, right? You can even start from fucking washes again and be like, I don't understand this at all. I just put a wash in and then I'll reapply another base layer on top of the higher things. Like, it's kind of how we all start, because our brain doesn't think about light and shadow in that way, because in our regular everyday life, we don't have to. So I think you can get back up there, but it's simply so many hours behind a brush to get your brush control that, like, and knowing that you should know how to do it would feel so frustrating.
Yeah. I think it would definitely be. I think it would especially be frustrating to have lost that skill. So it's not just that having the skill is nice, but not having it, just that would just suck. That was an easier one.
Thank God, because these are getting real heavy. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yep.
Would you rather have every brush you use lose its point after 1 hour? Fuck me, dude.
Yeah.
Or have your wet palette completely dry out every 10 minutes? Ah!
I think it's the wet palette, right?
This is miserable.
Because the wet palette is solvable, but the brush tip is not. Once the brush loses its tip, you can kind of fix it, but like it's just on the road to death, kind of. Right?
Yeah, I don't
So is it annoying to fill your palette up every 10 minutes?
I don't want to think about this one.
It is annoying, but have a bottle on your desk and fill it up for 10 minutes. Like,
I think I interpret have your wet palette completely dry out every 10 minutes is not just the water in there. In my basement, it's extremely dry, and I'm like constantly putting wet and the sponge or water in the sponge on the side all the time. I do that every 10 minutes probably anyway. I interpret this as like all the paint is completely dried that you put on the palette.
okay.
You have 10 minutes to work with that paint, and then it's a dried little brick, and you have to start it all over again.
It's so annoying.
It's annoying, but that's got to be the one you pick. I can't deal with you ruin a brush every hour.
Yeah, it's a difficult question too, because like there's a sliding scale of like a brush losing its tip, right? I can paint with a frayed brush as long as at some point some bristles come together in a point, you know? If there are some loose, wild ones, I don't really care as long as something is coming together into a point. But this is assuming that nothing is coming together. Like the end of your brush is not a point. It's like a little I don't know how to describe it, but that is
poofy little rabbit's tail.
that you just lose everything. Yeah. You lose like your ability to paint. Wow, paint. What was the term I used in the last question? Paint with detail.
Brush control.
Your ability to have brush control is largely gatekept by how sharp of a brush you have.
Mm-hmm.
You can only do as fine a thing as small as that point is. So it is so important that it is sharp and good. So if you lose that, you lose one of the most important skills in miniature painting.
Or you get an in with one of the major brush manufacturers. You get sponsored by Rosemary and Co. and they have to send you a case of brushes every month because you're just going through them and tossing them every hour.
Right, because they don't. What is it? An hour?
An hour.
Yeah, I take that. I love it. Imagine if you added all of these things up, you know?
I mean, this is a challenge video waiting to happen.
You change your brush every fucking 1 hour.
You just have a gremlin, like like somebody that's not you, that while you're painting, they like fucking spin the fucking wheel of fortune, and on each one of the little stopping points is one of these, and they spin it, and then like every 15 minutes they come over and they do the thing to you. They come with their little scissors and they fucking chop off the tip of your brush, or they spill the paint on your fucking wet palette. And
yeah. So if you're spilling a paint pot every session and swapping out brushes every hour, these are getting expensive. Like a session is like $50 or something like that.
I say just play video games.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, fuck this hobby, dude.
I'm just playing video games from now on. This wasn't meant to be. The Lord told me.
Dude, would your rather questions have to be two negative things, or could they be two positive things? Two nice things. No, it's better.
I mean, kind of the being able to paint an army with all the mental fortitude, or like winning a silver could be viewed as positive.
Yeah,
I looked at them through the negative lens, but you don't have to.
Yeah,
you don't have to. I can deal with paint drying out. I think a part of that is like if you knew all the paint on your wet palette was going to completely dry out every 10 minutes, would adjust how you worked in that function of your painting routine. You'd use tinier little drops.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have this long spread of mixes out on your palette that you're pulling from very often. You'd probably paint quicker in the earlier stages while you're doing more of that blending and transitioning to develop things. You'd be quick at that because you knew you did it under the time clock. But I think that's manageable, and you deal with it, and it wouldn't feel like as much of a hamstring.
Or you could have a brush holster right next to you where it's like, oh, hour happened, toss that shit, get a new one. And this paint is still wet and usable.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
You need that Flex Baraboo brush wristband.
Yeah.
You're just always pulling off another one.
Yeah.
And there's just like a comically large pile of brushes in the corner, and that you just keep throwing them into. Looks like a big old stack of kindling. Oh man.
I mean, if money is no object, then I feel like I would do that. But now we're getting expensive.
Yes.
That
is getting expensive.
Yeah. A brush can cost $15 to $20 a pop. So,
on the plus side, if you're using cheap synthetics, you're already dealing with this, because
that's basically what happens.
Because you do lose your brush tip after about an hour, if it had one to begin with.
Yeah. Also, something important to mention here is you do not need a good brush tip for the majority of the model.
Right.
For base coats, for large figures, you don't need that kind of stuff. It's really those like really close details that are nearby other stuff, or painting a face that you really need a sharp brush for. So maybe you just save the brush that's nice for that part of the model.
It's true.
Use a shitty one for the rest.
Yeah. So you're emphasizing the amount of the painting you're doing that doesn't require the definition phase, and then you're spending as little time as possible being as efficient with that good brush as possible.
Yes.
You get the most out of your hour.
Yep.
Okay. We almost solved all the world's problems here. We got one more question though, Scott. I'll let you read it.
All right. Number 6, would you rather accidentally cut off a piece of the model when removing it from the sprue every time, or accidentally drink your paint water every time you paint? It really depends on what part of the model you're cutting off. If it's some like just stray purity seal, like who cares? If it's like his fingers, like that's a little bit harder to recover from.
I cut off a part of his head. The thing is, you don't know. You don't know. You know what's going to happen. And as try as you might, as much as you're like being really close attention, you got those really nice God hand clippers, so you're really, really on top of things. You fucking slip up every time.
It's like, goddamn, there goes his toes.
Yeah, dude. Like, I don't know. This Laz pistol is just like a Laz flashlight now, because I just cut off the tip of it. That sucks.
I'll take the paint water.
Listen.
I love how all of the options are basically like anything that gets in the way of how I currently enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, right.
I'm not picking that option.
Right. We've all drank paint water before.
I haven't.
I've drank. It's not that bad. If you put your brush in your mouth to get your tip, like sharp, which you absolutely should do. You've ingested more bad things from paint from that than you did from paint water. Now,
Okay,
I would say that would adjust maybe certain colors I wouldn't use. I'd no longer use paints that have cadmium in there, things like that.
You use cadmium paints?
I have a golden toe flat cadmium yellow.
Okay. I don't know if I do. It's possible that they're in a paint and I'm not unaware of it, but I've never bought a paint that I knew had cadmium pigments in it.
Yeah, I have a pure cadmium yellow single pigment.
Goddamn.
It's fucking beautiful yellow.
I bet.
And it smells like cancer.
Do the Monument hobby paints use cadmium?
I don't know.
Don't they use that word in some of the paint pots? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Don't quote me on that.
But I don't know. They say don't drink. They said don't eat your paints.
That is a thing they say.
That's a thing that they're really passionate about.
They have a whole neon sign that says that
for some reason. Listen. Do you? I could say don't eat McDonald's too. That's also a smart thing. Those are all the topics.
Wait, we're settled. We've picked this one.
We picked you drinking paint water. Fucking drinking paint water all day, every day.
What if?
We had at one point, wasn't it, for part of drunk mini painting that someone wanted us, like, if the loser had to drink shots of. Oh, we did the skit. Or we did the thing where we had the drinks as part of drunk mini painting, where they were all based off of like paint things.
Yes.
And one of them was a shot of gnome oil.
Yeah. Blood for the Blood God was another one, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we basically, the alcohol's worse for you than the paint.
Yeah.
Water.
I think.
You know? Like, I'm not like you have to, like, now if it said, like, every time you paint a model, you have to chug your paint water at the end.
Let's change it to that.
Okay.
You have to drink your whole paint cup water at the end of every session. I would just fill it up the tiniest. It's just like a little shot, you know?
I know, but it's going to be so dense. Chase it down.
And
okay.
Like, what if you're using like Tamiya Clear and like I use Molotov Chrome, you know, you don't clean like your oil wash stuff in the water, but like those things you kind of do.
I have a separate silicoil jar that is mineral spirits that I use that, open the lid on that and use that to clean my brush and stuff when I'm using those. Not that. You can't drink that.
No.
But if I had to drink my entire cup of paint water after every paint job.
Yeah.
I started every paint job with a new clean glass of water.
Yep.
And the end of every miniature, I had to chug it. I would then take cutting off a piece of the model.
You would?
Yeah.
You would? Oh, man.
Think of how many things of water over a fucking army. That's like 60 glasses of paint water.
It's so hard.
I just think it's more about the amount. I can drink a lot of really terrible things in small amounts.
Oh, God.
But big amounts.
When I go and I paint at like a game store, the cup of water that I bring is a solo cup. That's a shot cup. It's like, because that's the amount of water you really need for like a 2-hour-long session.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of water.
No.
And I'm thinking, would I shoot that every session? I think I would.
I think I would.
I'm already deep in it, man. I'm eating my paint brush like all the time. And yeah, I'm going to die young from that anyway. So let's just accelerate that, I guess.
Yeah, if you are under the age of 18 and you're listening to this podcast,
don't listen to us.
First of all, hi. Second of all, don't do any of this stuff. These are simply hypotheticals, man. All right?
Man.
Don't drink the paint water on purpose. Whatever. I get that. Yeah, I would, it would allow me to change how I approached my amount of water I used. And you're right. You could get away with a shot glass full of water on the average mini. But if I'm painting I probably wouldn't paint large scale minis anymore. I couldn't paint big models anymore because I use a big old fat brush to. Also, what else do I do?
Airbrush.
Fucking airbrush, bud. Airbrush everything.
We're drinking paint water.
Oh, we're drinking paint water because I don't give a shit how much water. Because I'm going to use mostly airbrush and I'm just going to do all the important stuff with the brush at the end. A little bit of paint in that water.
Okay.
Shoot it in celebration of finishing my model.
Okay.
It's sad how easily we chose paint water over a non-consequential thing of a little piece of the model is snip.
Could you fix the model?
Yeah.
Dude, I can't be bothered. No. I don't want to resculpt little fingers, dude.
No, I'm not going to fucking sprue glue this thing back on. Throw it away. Next one. Give me that paint water. Chug it.
Every model I paint is an amputee now.
See, the other thing, too, is like if you did the paint water, you could pour a shot of vodka in the paint water first, and the vodka would kill any of the bad stuff, right?
Nope.
Damn.
It's not alive,
Right, if there's bacteria.
Yeah, if there's bacteria, yes. Yes. So there may be.
Chemicals and heavy metals on the other
Yeah,
hand.
those are getting through.
Damn.
Those are going into your stomach.
I suppose when you pour, in the old-timey movies, when they pour alcohol over the gunshot wound, it doesn't make it not a gunshot wound anymore.
It's like heals the fucking... Oh, I love that.
It just pops out the bullet.
Who made that? I think it was Guy made that YouTube video where he was like, how much paint can I put in my coffee before I start to taste it? He didn't even make that video.
It was a surprising amount, I think.
Was it? Talk to Guy about this. Maybe he has a subject matter expert on the whole situation.
Yeah.
That was good.
That was fun.
Those are fun questions. We'll do that again for sure.
Yeah. Put your questions in the Patreon, please.
Yeah. Or put them in the comments. And the one with the most likes, the ones that get to the top, we'll consider using those as well.
Yeah, we can ask James to go through and grab those off of this episode, and it'll be a good thing. Did you like those kinds of questions? What did you guys think? Was there an answer that you were like diametrically opposed, and you think the other answer was right?
Yeah.
Did we agree on everything?
I think so.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think so.
Did you choose spiders or snakes?
Probably. Are snakes more likely to be venomous and like lethal than spiders?
We didn't say what kind of spiders and what kind of snakes.
Are we assuming that there's lethal?
No. Okay. We have to assume that neither of them are lethal. Either of them could bite.
I'm painting
they
a
could both
snake
bite.
surrounded by snakes that can touch me.
Yeah, it's like Indiana Jones. You're in the snakes.
I'm in a snake pit.
Yeah.
Okay. So they might not be touching me right now, but they might touch me at some point in the future.
Like you're in a kiddie pool, but instead of it being water, it's all snakes or all spiders.
And I'm sitting down and they're fucking on my legs and shit.
Yeah, you're crisscross applesauce in this shit.
And it's the same question with spiders? Yeah, fuck that, dude. Fucking those motherfuckers would get all up over you.
Oh, yeah.
Instantaneously.
Spiders would be like
Yeah, snakes for sure, dude.
yeah, snakes.
At least I could see them coming, God.
Damn,
I'd be a pain. There'd be a fucking spider in my fucking ear and I'd lose my shit.
The spider like gets on the model of a spider
God.
and you have to like work around the spider on your spiders. Dude, spiders are the worst, dude. I understand that spiders like serve a great purpose and they kill all the nasty bugs and mosquitoes and flies and gross stuff, and they're great. I love them, but I love them over there.
Yeah.
I don't love them anywhere near me.
Yeah, not in my house.
Yeah, snakes are cool.
Yeah.
Some snakes are mean, and some snakes can kill you, but snakes are cool.
I forgot you're a snake guy.
I'm a snake guy.
Yeah.
I still I've been bitten by a large number of snakes in my life.
What?
But
What the fuck?
yeah, oh man, there's so many snakes. You know, in Minnesota, there's a lot of snakes. You go out looking for them. You can find snakes.
I mean, I don't generally go out looking for snakes.
And then when I go to, when I was in college, I went to the Minneapolis reptile store, you know, the one on the university.
Oh, yeah.
I used to go there all the time, and I'd go and I'd ask to hold all the snakes. And the owner, I got to know him, and he'd have like baby alligators and shit there. Weird stuff. I don't think it was all legal. Whatever. And I got to hold the snakes, and if a snake, what I've come to the conclusion is if a snake is bright green, it is probably going to bite you.
Okay.
Like emerald tree boas are some of the most beautiful snakes, and they're the ones you have to see in National Geographic and Discovery and all that kind of stuff. And they're like the vibrant green, and they curl up to make like this like little U's, and only their head sticks out in the middle.
Okay.
You know? Those motherfuckers are all mad. They're mad all the time, and they bite, and they have hook teeth, and the fucking hook teeth stick in you, and you have to like take the head. They don't let go. You have to take the head, push the head forward to open his mouth more. Get your finger in between the jaw and the back so you can get some space, and then pull it off. While he's holding onto you, green snakes, stay clear of them. They may not be poisonous, but those motherfuckers will bite you every time. Every green snake I've ever picked up has bit me. So,
is this snake pit full of green snakes?
There's going to be some green snakes in there.
I'd take the spiders, bro.
No. Like those, but also
you can't paint a mall with a fucking snake assaulting you, dude.
Yeah, but also those snakes are mad at everyone, including
so what? I'm in the fucking kiddie pool. I don't care about everyone else.
You need to instigate other snakes. Get him pissed off at other snakes so he doesn't bite you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, maybe they're going to start a snake fight. But then when a snake fight starts, they're all mad and you're nearby.
Yeah. And you're the only non-snake thing.
Okay, we need to make this. It's a human.
We don't need to make this.
It's a human snow globe, but the base is a kiddie pool, and the globe is a lid that goes on top that's clear that everyone can watch you. It's like a David Blaine magic experiment in New York Times.
This is the next drunk mini painting.
And you're just in there with it. It's like Fear Factor.
Yeah.
Miniature painting Fear Factor.
Yeah. Emil, we got your next video idea, brother.
I dare you. Oh, gosh. All right. That's the end of the main topic.
Welcome to the end of the podcast.
We did it.
Thank you for listening all the way to the end. We really appreciate you. If you like the podcast, which I assume you do for listening this long, and you want to support it, there are a number of ways that you can do that, either with your money or without your money. I don't know if this applies anymore, but you can watch our episodes on YouTube. We run ads every 30 minutes, and that helps us. You can share our podcast with your nerd friends, with your mom, with your dog, with your cat, with your mom twice, with your grandma.
2 times.
Mom? I think you're really going to like it, I swear. You can also give us a review wherever you're listening to podcasts. That helps our little show get pumped up in the numbers. But if you have money and you want to spend it, you can do it on our Patreon. We've kind of talked about that a couple times in the episode. You get access to a longer episode where we chat about things like giving feedback to our patrons, new things we tried out, and also talking about models that we like from other painters. It's about 20 minutes to 30 minutes of extra content. You can also pick up some merch we have on our Teespring, linked down in the show notes below. We have 3 different designs, all on a bunch of different kinds of clothing. So yeah, that's it.
That's it. Thank you for hanging out with us. We'll be back in one fortnight, a.k.a. 14 days, a.k.a. 2 weeks. And until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.